Hi, today I wanted to talk about inherent self-value. What is it? Why it matters? What disconnects us from it and how to reconnect to our inherent worth. So, inherent self-value means recognizing that your worth is not earned, it's not conditioned, and it doesn't need to be proven. It's recognizing, it's a deep knowing that we are worthy just because we exist. You know, you don't have to be liked, approved of, you don't have to perform, you don't have to succeed to be worthy. It's something that can't be taken away from you. It can be decreased or increased based on performance or approval. So you don't need to be perfect, productive, liked or validated to matter. So there's a difference between self-worth, which is innate, it's unshakable, and self-esteem is changeable. It changes, and it's based on performance. It's very windy. I hope the sound is okay. It's just so beautiful here, though. I'll show you a bit of a sky. So yes, self-esteem is based on approval, and it's conditional. And what I'm talking about is something we were born with, and we matter because we exist. We have lost this along the way. Well, we never actually lost it. We conditions played out that disconnected us from knowing our self-worth, our value. So when someone embodies inherent self-value, they set healthy boundaries without guilt. They take risks without fear of being not good enough. They bounce back from rejection more easily. They also make decisions from self-trust as opposed to people-pleasing. Oh, it's quiet here. They also love more freely because they don't seek to fulfill themselves or to be completed by someone else. The opposite of having inherent or knowing inherent self-value would be, without it, the person, constantly seeks approval and validation. They overachieve to feel good enough. They stay in toxic relationships out of fear of abandonment. They experience impostor syndrome or perfectionism, which limits their actions in many ways. They feel deep shame even for smallest mistakes that they make, which again stops them from setting goals and achieving their higher potential. They struggle to rest or receive help. So as you can see, there's many limitations to not knowing, not recognizing your inherent self-value. So how do we disconnect from that inner value that we were born with? There are many ways. From birth, we were pure, whole, complete. But in childhood, especially in emotionally confusing, unsafe environments, we begin to believe that we are not complete whole beings. This is often connected with survival strategy. And I'll explain why that is a little bit later, why we subscribe to limiting beliefs about ourselves. Like I said, it's to do with survival aspect of our psychological makeup. And it's a universal way we tend to navigate. Oh, it just happens instinctively and subconsciously, but I'll explain that soon. The most common ways this disconnection happens is in I'm gonna outline six or seven ways in which this happens. One of them is when a child was brought up in conditional loving environment. What I mean by that is that the love they received was conditional and it was based on approval. The beliefs they adopted was, I'm only lovable when I am good, when I am quiet, when I am smart, successful, obedient. And so they started to believe that my worth depends on what I do and not who I am. I'm gonna go where it's a little bit less wind. The next one is when children experience environments where there was emotional neglect or their feelings were invalidated. So they heard messages such as, don't cry, you are too sensitive, get over it, right? So when emotions are dismissed or invalidated, a child learns that their feelings are wrong, therefore they are wrong. That's what they start to believe, and so they need to change to be accepted. The next one that impacts our disconnection or affects our disconnection from self-worth is when we are being criticized and compared to others, and the voices they hear, why can't you be more like your brother, or what is wrong with you? You know, harsh words and comparisons, they lead to deep feelings of shame, and they create the belief that something is inherently broken or unworthy in me. The number 4, I believe, would be when children are being parentified or ignored. You are strong enough to care for yourself, or your needs can be met because there's no time right now. And so what happens when the child hears those messages, they suppress their needs to care for others, and they learn that my needs and presence are a burden, and I'm only worthy when I'm useful. And the last one I want to touch on is when there were unrepaired ruptures, unrepaired conflicts between child and adult that took care of that child. And what happens when there's yelling, punishments, or disconnection without later comfort, understanding, or resolution, is that the child, without the repair, children, they blame themselves and they say, it must be my fault, I must be bad. So what you can notice in all of them, whatever the environment or the treatment emotional was, whatever the emotional environment was, the child always blames themselves for the shortcomings of their parents or caretakers. And the reason for it is that children are developmentally self-centered. And it's not a selfish thing, it's more survival driven, what I already touched upon earlier on in this video. Children internalize everything, so if they growing up in unloving environment, they will often think that it's them being unloving, that unloving, yes, I am not lovable. You know, they don't understand that perhaps parent is struggling, that perhaps parent has a wound, emotional wound, and doesn't have the emotional and otherwise resources to take care of them. So they blame themselves. This is often origin of shame, you know. So not I made a mistake, but I am a mistake. This is when unconscious limiting beliefs form and they run our life. The unconscious limiting beliefs about ourselves, that's what blocks our recognition of our inner self-worth. And that's where we people please, we become perfectionists, we limit ourselves in many ways by not asking for help, by overgiving, overachieving, but never feeling like we deserve, like we worthy. You know, we experience anxiety and chronic self-doubt. We fear abandonment. We overwork and overgive. And yeah, we don't feel we deserve to rest. There's shame around that. And, you know, also fear of expressing our needs. And that's detrimental to experiencing, you know, experiencing authentic connections, being authentic with others, asking for what we deserve, setting healthy boundaries. And so it's like living with a heavy backpack, constantly needing to prove ourselves, not deserving to exist, not deserving to take our space. And what can help us to heal that disconnection and support reconnection with our inherent self-worth is many things, but inner child work is profound. Reconnecting with the one that got wounded in the past with compassion is so healing. Understanding where our beliefs were formed and naming and releasing those beliefs and reprogramming to more empowering ones. As an emotional integration coach, I help people use their triggers, gateways to healing. You know, triggers often feel overwhelming, like anger, shame, resentment, rejection, or unworthiness that we just spoke about. But they are actually signals pointing us deeper back to the unresolved wounds formed in the past. So instead of avoiding or suppressing our emotions, I guide clients to safely lean in, gently lean in and uncover the beliefs hidden beneath those reactions. You know, they meet their younger selves, they meet their younger selves, the ones that first took on those limiting beliefs. In this process, what once felt like a painful trigger becomes an opening to remember their inherent value. By releasing the old story and meeting the younger self with compassion, the client experiences profound shift. The trigger loses its charge, and what remains is a deep sense of inner value, inner worth. Well, that doesn't depend on circumstances or approval. You know, beliefs are not on the level of mind. They are emotional and they live in the body. And in order to shift them, we need to reconnect with the body, with the feelings that were suppressed, that still run the show by projecting blame out onto the world. But the trigger shows us what's still hurting inside. So as long as we keep projecting, we will not experience freedom, we will not experience emotional liberation, and we will continue to be poked by the outside. Because outside just says, look here, there's a wound. Wound is the place where light enters you. That's by Rumi. So remember, you are not broken. You are inherently worthy, but there are layers of fear, shame, and adaptation that still run your life. If you would like to uncover what limits you, look at your triggers. I am an emotional integration coach, and I'll guide people gently to uncover their limiting beliefs, to reveal to them again their worth, their value, their unlimited selves. So if you would like to work with me, the link is in the description below. I wish you an amazing day. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.